Maro Itoje, Saracens and England rugby player. My hope is that one day racism will be a thing of the past. I started playing rugby at the age of 11. I moved schools. I moved from Salcombe Prep School to St George's School in Harpenden. And my headmaster in my last year at Salcombe was a man called Floyd. And he was a former Saracen scrum half, ironically. And as I was leaving school, he told me, "Oh, Maro, I think you should give rugby a go." I think he just told me that because I was big, I was tall, I was bigger than most of my classmates. I knew nothing of rugby. I briefly knew England won the World Cup, but it was just almost a footnote in my life. It wasn't a major event. I went to St George's, and St George's is a rugby school. And then everyone plays rugby there. I fell in love with the game, picked it up, and I haven't let it go since.
You said your Nigerian heritage, it defines how I see myself. It's shaped the lens in which I see the world. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
So both my parents are born and raised in Nigeria. The way they raised us was through a Nigerian lens or a Nigerian outlook. Culturally, my household, the household in which I was raised, was very Nigerian. In terms of the values, in terms of what they expected of us, in terms of the traditions that they grew up with. What that has done has just shaped the way I see the world. It's given me, it's almost the lens in which I want to behave, or I want to act, or how I want others to perceive me as.
What position did they put you in when you first rocked up to training?
I was second row from the jump.
Straight away, they looked at you.
Yeah.
Because what I'm really interested in is almost that unconscious bias at the very beginning of a rugby career. And when rugby players arrive at training, coaches just look at them and say, "Oh, yeah, you look like you could be fast. Why don't you go on the wing?" Have you experienced that?
Yeah. So I think
I'm not saying you wouldn't make a good winger, Maro, but
I think I know my place. But
you've got a ton of speed. But
First of all, I think when I was placed in the second row, I think it was my right placing. Just to be clear, but I think black people are often perceived to be very strong, very quick, and they're attributes that you put to a winger almost straight away, centre and winger. Or if you're a bit stronger, you get chucked in maybe the back row or something. What it doesn't promote is the exploration of the individual skill set. They may be really quick, they may be really strong, and they may make a very good winger, but they could make an unbelievable 10 if a bit more time is put within their skill sets.
There's also not many black captains. It was hugely powerful, that image, wasn't it, of Sia Khaleesi lifting the World Cup as a black captain, and people celebrated that. But beyond him, very few, aren't there?
Yeah, there are very few. But I would also say that there's generally the pool of it's not a massive pool of black players in general. So it means that there's a very small amount to choose from to play anyway. I believe that all those types of things will change as we continue to push the game to have a wider arm, and continue to push the game to be more encompassing and attract different people from different backgrounds.
And this year there could be 2 captains going head-to-head in a Lions tour that are both black. Have you thought about symbolically how big a moment that could be for the sports? And beyond that?
Yeah, I think Anthony Watson will make a great captain. I do acknowledge how significant an event like that would be if it does happen, but I guess fate will decide.
And many people would be surprised that you haven't captained much already.
That game, for me, it just showed resilience. We weren't at our best. We didn't play the game exactly how we wanted it, but we stuck at it. It shows the character, it shows what we're building. If this was us a year ago, we probably would have lost that game. But we showed resilience, fellas. So, flipping out. Well done, another trophy, yeah?
Do you aspire to be a captain?
My ambition is to do whatever it is to make my team win. With being captain, I feel as if you campaign or clamour for the role of captain, you're almost wanting it for the wrong reasons. I think the reason partly for that is that I've had some great captains. I've been so fortunate to learn and to be around like great captains. My first year at Saracens, the captain was Steve Borthwick, and he was incredible. That year alone, I learned so much. Then we've had people like Brad Barrett, who like leads from the front, like able to run through walls. Owen is one of the fiercest competitors that you would ever meet. He absolutely is obsessed with the game, and all he wants is for the team to do well. So I've had great captains, and for me, it's been a blessing to be around them, because I think being around those individuals, and there's many more that I can name, but being around those individuals has made me a better leader. It's made me learn things about myself, and allowed me to hopefully be a better player as well.
I found it really interesting when you talked about schools, holidays, privilege. That takes away some of the negative impact of racism. Is that why education is so important to you? Speaking
from a black point of view, education is important because there are often misconceptions, there are often biases that are assigned to you without you doing anything. And if you have an education, if you have a good quality education, you're able to, at the very least, fight past some of those like biases. Coming from the household in which I came from, it was always at the forefront, and other things could like go by the wayside, and they could like, I don't know, bend on certain issues, but your academics and your education was a non-negotiable. It's interesting because I've seen that you very much backing anybody that can help get technology into the kids' hands that are not going to have the same experience of homeschooling. Education is often seen as a leveller. Education is often seen as something that can aid social mobility. People say if you get yourself educated, you'll be able to do what you want. But what the situation as a result of the coronavirus has put upon us now is that there's going to be a big disparity between the haves and the have-nots in terms of education. And with that, there are millions of children within this country that don't have sufficient access to digital data in terms of Wi-Fi, broadband, internet access, and they don't have sufficient access to equipment in terms of laptops, computers, iPads. What that is going to mean is that there's going to be a generation of children where we've almost let them down. Their life chances may be impacted. The other thing I noticed is that you're a supporter of black curriculum. The reason why I'm supportive of it, because throughout my schooling system, the only times I really learned about black history was in relation to the slave trade. So as a young child growing up, it makes you think, is the black contribution to society only limited to the slave trade? And what that gives you is a very singular view of black people, and I think contributes to the biases that we have as a society towards black people. If the black curriculum achieves its aims, it only benefits black people, but I think it benefits everybody. Can I take you back to May the 25th, 2020?
George Floyd, a 46-year-old man from Minneapolis in the United States, died after being handcuffed and pinned to the ground by a police officer. Mr. Floyd was unarmed and black. Footage of the restraint was shared widely online.
There's times in like social media, you hear things trending and stuff, and sometimes you don't really pay it too much attention. Then after a day or so, like the noise around it was getting louder and louder and louder, and whether it was all over social media, was in the conversations that you're having with friends, family, etc. And so I said, all right, let me sit down and let me watch this video. So I watched it from beginning to end, and it had an effect on me that like watching that type of thing doesn't normally have. And this is, you know, me on the completely other side of the world, and I think it's an experience that many have shared.
And I know that you went to the BLM protests.
I wanted to feel the energy. I wanted to see. I was only there for a very short period of time because of COVID. My initial thought was that it was just going to be black people there, but you know, one of the encouraging things was that it was people from all different types of races, background, creeds, colour, etc., that also felt, you know, that things do need to move in a more positive direction.
And sport has been a huge driving force for that change. Who have you admired during this time?
I think there's been a lot of people, to be honest. Well, like Naomi Osaka, she did some great things in America. You know, the NBA, the whole load of their players did some really progressive things. You know, LeBron, Chris Paul, etc. There's a number of athletes throughout you know the world who've tried to lend their voice and tried to, you know, push the dial in a better direction.
Lewis Hamilton's another person. Have you admired what he's done?
We talk about diversity within rugby and how that needs to improve, but diversity within rugby is miles ahead of diversity within the Formula One space, and not only in terms of drivers, but in terms of the background, the support staff, the mechanics, the engineers. So it's no surprise that he does feel like a lone voice there. And you know, first and foremost, he's probably the best driver that, you know, we've ever seen. And I'm sure by the time that he's hung up his helmet, car keys, he probably will be the best driver. It will probably be without debate. And I think it's what he's done in his own space to try and push and increase diversity within Formula One has been amazing.
People like Marcus Rashford, from what he's doing in terms of education, school meals, we've seen what Raheem Sterling's done over the past couple of years as well.
Well, I think both those guys or all three of the people that you've mentioned are individuals who've, you know, shone light on things that are just wrong. You know, Marcus in terms of the school meals, you know, underprivileged children getting the bare minimum of decent food. Raheem Sterling, he's put a light on things that the biases in the press and you know, newspapers and how they report things on different players based on their race. So I think all the things that those guys are doing is incredible, and I think they should be commended for it, because I think all these little conversations, they just push society in the right direction.
And what does success look like for you then? Is it all about medals and winning, or is it about the legacy you can leave behind in terms of social and racial injustice?
I don't think it's either or. I make no bones about it, I want to win. You know, I take a lot of pleasure out of winning. I like winning trophies. I like being a part of successful teams. I like the feeling of getting better, and you know, everything I'm involved with, I want to win. But I always think of what I would have wanted when I was like a 15, 14-year-old, you know, individual playing rugby, and if I can like promote or make those individuals feel, you know, a bit better about themselves, or give those individuals someone that they can look up to, or someone that looks like them, or someone that they have affiliation or affinity to, then I think that would be a positive step.